So Paul, the new book, The Future of Public Transportation. I know that you brought together 40 industry leaders, CEOs, call them futurists, and they were kind of looking at the problem of what's the future of transit and what are some issues that need to be tackled in the next 10 years. So what made you write that book?
Well, we're in the 2020s now, right?
Right.
And so as we came to the end of the last decade, I've been traveling the world with this Transit Unplugged podcast, interviewing CEOs after my 30 years actually in the business, and I felt like I really had my finger on the pulse of where our industry is going. And our industry is changing rapidly, as you know. And so I thought, instead of just getting CEOs involved in it, like my first book, Full Throttle, was mostly CEOs writing about their careers, this time I thought we ought to ask the tech leaders, the people who are actually creating and innovating that transit systems are looking to for new technology. Companies like TripSpark, for instance, who is developing brand new cloud-based software that's helping people go into the 21st century in a big way, into the 2020s, and helping them, for mid and small size transit systems, helping them have the same innovations that the large ones do.
I know you travel all over the country, all over the world, so you have an opportunity to talk to a lot of different transit agencies. One of the things I know is decreasing is ridership. What can you tell me a little bit more about what might be bucking that trend?
I've done an analysis actually of the systems just in the last year or so. We kind of cratered and have started to make the turn. In the United States, for instance, there were 7 of the top 35 transit systems in 2018 that actually experienced an increase. In Canada, in places like Vancouver, where they led all of North America with 18% increase. So I've talked to their CEOs, I've analyzed it, and I've come up with what I call in the book the 3 silver bullets. You know, like Lone Ranger used to have a silver bullet, right? The first is to reboot their bus network. Houston started this, then my system in Baltimore did it, Columbus, and now a lot of systems across the country have done it. Basically, it takes a look at, you do a rider analysis. Where do people really want to go? They don't all need to go downtown anymore to the central business district. Second is frequency. Frequency is king. Nobody wants to wait anymore, Tom, you know that. I don't like waiting in the grocery store if there's 2 people in front of me.
It's got to be now.
Yeah, nobody wants to stand at a bus stop for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and never know when the bus is going to come. So we've got to increase frequency. 10 to 15 minute headways on buses are the second key. And then the third big thing is to reduce friction. A big problem in transit systems today is that when the routes do get into the downtown area at rush hours, they slow down to the point where, Tom, you and I could probably walk faster than those buses are moving.
Where does customer experience fit into that kind of 3 magic bullets?
That's good. It's really under the friction part, right? Part of the friction is the not knowing. And so if they can look at their phone and see, oh, I see the bus, it's 2 minutes away, just like they do with some other transit uses. They can see that, it makes them feel comfortable about riding. Or when they're on the vehicle, like being on a vehicle like this, they can see an infotainment screen up on the wall, and it tells them the next stop is coming up in 2 minutes, it's this station, and in between there might be commercials, there might be some television shows or interesting information about the city. All of that is a big part of improving that customer experience, which makes them feel more comfortable to ride, reduces the resistance and friction they're feeling, and gets them on the seats.
So Paul, looking at 2020 and beyond, what are some of the top transit trends?
I'd say some of the 3 biggest trends is autonomous vehicles. Everybody's dipping their toe into that pond now. They all want to do a pilot of some type or bring in a few and try them out. And so new manufacturers are starting to enter the market now, et cetera. Autonomous vehicles are really the wave of the future, not just for shared mobility, but as you know, for regular cars too, like Tesla and all. They're leaning that way, and we're going to see, I think, full autonomy in this decade at some point, is what I predict. And secondly, I think another big one is what we've already talked about, which is the whole rebooting of all the networks and everything that goes around it to increase ridership. The other one is the mobility as a service, the new trend that's coming on. Mobility as a service, or MaaS, M-A-A-S, is really a concept that came to us out of Helsinki, Finland, where the idea is that now that transit agencies no longer have a monopoly on public mobility in the city, because there's private operators that have come in running Uber and Lyft and taxis and scooters and bikes and all the extra mobility options. So now the agencies, traditional transit agencies, are seeing their role adjust some to become more what I would call a mobility aggregator, where now they're a provider, but they're also bringing other people in. And so cities like Dallas have taken the lead, and they've put it all on one app, a smartphone app, where you can see all the options in a city, not just transit. And you can plan your trip, you can pay for your trip, and in some cities overseas, and coming soon to America and Canada, will be you can subscribe. And you can get a level of subscription service like you might Netflix or some other service where you can do all the options, unlimited on some, and maybe 10 trips a month on Uber. So those are 3 of the biggest trends that are really driving what's happening.
Let's dig a little deeper. You mentioned mobile public transit fare paying options such as cell phones, tap and go, cards, wearable devices. How has your experience been so far in terms of seeing that implementation?
It's happening in forward-looking cities. So Vancouver's a perfect example. TransLink, that won APTA's award for this year for the top major transit system, they're now doing those kind of, you tap your bracelet, it's got fare paying on it, not just your phone or your iWatch anymore. So it's happening. One thing that some companies are doing to help even improve that even more, like TripSpark and Trapeze working together, is they've put together a new fare paying system for the driver to help the driver not be distracted. A lot of times there's only limited real estate in the front of a bus. And so if you have multiple screens that a driver has to look at, or an operator, they're looking around and there's too much distraction. Trapeze and TripSpark have been able to pull all that information together with the fare box and their CAD AVL giving turn-by-turn directions onto one screen. So it minimizes the distraction of the driver, which helps him or her stay focused on the road, which is where their eyes are supposed to be.
Next question is, how do you see paratransit changing in the next decade?
Paratransit, as you know, is near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of my career doing that, worked in Washington, D.C., helping to run their system for 5 years. Paratransit is also one of the biggest challenges for major public transit systems because the cost of it is so high. It can be $40 a trip to pick up people, and when you're doing, some cities are doing, like Baltimore and D.C., 10,000 trips a day, that can add up to the real money. And so one of the big trends that transit agencies are looking at is how to make their systems more efficient. And some of the ways they're doing that is by better utilizing the software that actually runs the whole behind the scenes. And then another big thing that's happening is that people now are able to book their trip. If you're a person with a disability or an elderly person, you can go right on your phone and book your trip. Pretty cool. You don't have to call in anymore or even go to your computer. Those are all the new things that are happening to really take paratransit again into the 2020s.
So as communities innovate and they're moving together, how crucial is innovation for our sector?
Very much so. As I've analyzed what's happening across the world in the transit sphere, really public transportation is innovating at a faster clip than almost any other industry outside of medicine. I mean, think about it, just 10 years ago, we didn't have all the things we have today, right? There weren't scooters on the street, there weren't bikes on the street, there wasn't Uber and Lyft. People couldn't book their trip on their phone. I mean, just about every facet of transportation has been impacted just in the last 5 or 6 years. And that rapid rate of increase in technology is just going to increase. All these innovations are happening, and it's happening so fast that some transit agencies are having trouble keeping up. So that's why they're relying on trusted partners, like their technology partners, companies like TripSpark and Trapeze that are already in so many transit systems across North America. They're relying on them to keep them up to date with the latest features and functionalities that can help their software really improve the customer experience in the long run going into the 2020s.
Paul, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really going to look forward to reading the book.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. I appreciate it.